Hello, everybody. I'm Ron Miscavige, and here we go. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me too. Keep the love light burning in your eyes so true. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Now, there's a reason I sang that, and it's not to show you how I sound singing, but we took in a feral cat about a month ago, and that is the song I sing to her every time I go in the room that's dedicated to her. She's a little cat. My wife has been feeding her for about 8 months, and we thought there's no way this cat is going to live through another winter. So we took her in and we're domesticating her. And when I sing that song, she closes her eyes and sometimes she'll put her head down and listen to it. Anyway, that's my latest thing. And I'm looking forward to domesticating her and introducing her to our other cat, Frank. Now, you may have guessed this, but if you haven't, this is actually Life After Scientology. And I'm Ron Miscavige. I'm your host, and we have a very special guest on for you today. As a matter of fact, she's your favorite guest, actually by statistic. And we have a subject which I'm sure you're going to enjoy being enlightened on. Before I do that, let me get into a little business, and that is this. If you're not a subscriber, could you please do so and hit the little bell there so when we have a new show, you'll be notified. And if you want to contribute to the ongoingness of this and the other shows I do, just go to therealronmiscavige.com and you can become a Patreon and contribute and help out to defray some of the expenses we have. So, without any further words or business, please welcome Karen de la Courier. Good afternoon, Karen, and thanks for coming on.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
So, I guess I was going to introduce it, but why don't you? Because this is a high profile, well, as a matter of fact, the most high profile celebrity Scientologist in the world. And we want to talk about some of the things that go on that just don't seem to be kosher. And to get in this, let's put it this way. We're going to talk about Tom Cruise. He receives special favors and luxury living like no other Scientologist does. Karen, you want to take that up right out of the box?
Yeah, recently Tom Cruise was in London and he did a fun little video of him outside Buckingham Palace where he was recognized, and he did all this clip and sent it to the media. The media reported it, but also added a paragraph that while he was in England, he went to St. Hill Manor and stayed in this luxurious quarters he has on this tax-free Hollywood movie star suite at St. Hill Manor. He couldn't even be in London for 2-3 days without going into a Scientology property. You know, I lost my son at 27 years old to the cult, and I just cannot stomach a worldwide movie star endorsing and shilling and promoting the cult on autopilot. Perhaps he's doing it subconsciously. Perhaps it's just so habitual he's not even thinking what he's doing.
Well, I actually, no, I think you hit the point right there. He's not thinking what he's doing. He's not thinking what he's doing because if he thought about it and thought about all the things that we've talked about, and I say we, meaning me, you, Leah Remini, Mike Rinder, Tom DeVock, Chris Shelton, all the people who come on and have other people on who have been abused by the church and had their families ripped apart. When you're promoting the church, you might be conscious or unconscious of it. You're promoting that.
I don't know if it's this quid pro quo. He gets so many unusual favors from the cult. I want to get into some unusual favors that Tom Cruise has received on orders of David Miscavige, who owns Tom Cruise. Can you give me a comment on that?
Well, no, but I would like to backtrack just for 1 second and say this. There was one point when Tom received his Medal of Valor in St. Hill. I was at that event, and David said he was the most dedicated Scientologist he knows. Now, let me tell you something. I was in the Sea Organization at the time. I worked from morning till night, 7 days a week, received very few amenities, even on the holidays. If we got off like on morning or maybe in the evening on Christmas, that was standard. Sometimes we got the whole day off. The food wasn't the greatest. I give credit to the people who worked in the galley. They tried to do the most they could with the allocation they had for food. And despite all that, all of us there worked hard all the time. So when he said that, here's a guy, he makes movies. His spare time is not taken up, going and stuffing CDs into packing out at the castle like we did on our, not spare time in a regular day. And to say he was the most dedicated, I think it pushed a lot of people's noses out of the joint who were in the Sea Org at the time. Well, me for one.
What an insult. What an insult to a Sea Org member that gets no day off, that gets no annual leave, that receives a pittance, $20, $25 when mostly the revenue is down, works like a slave, gets sleep deprivation, is ordered to abort a baby if the spouse gets pregnant, is punished within an inch of their lives for broad, like the blob punishment. Somebody at Gold does something. So the whole of Gold is in the Lord. Everybody is doing conditioned write-ups, this ritual of falling on your sword and writing up how evil you are, and every other week writing up your crimes. What crimes can you actually commit in the
you don't have time to commit crimes. What the hell is this? You don't have time to.
Tom Cruise subconsciously is constantly endorsing and promoting this monster, this cruel, hideous entity called the Cult of Scientology. And I just can't stand it. However, I do want to say that Tom is more than deluded. Do you know a guy called Michael Doven?
I never met him, Karen, but I know of him. Yeah, that's true. He was a spy for the church with Tom, wasn't he?
Many people don't know the fact that Tom actually withdrew and left Scientology from 1991 to 2001. That's 10 years. He just withdrew. He was not participating. And a spy was installed in Tom's life. A spy, a mole. And this guy's name was Michael Doven, a dedicated Scientologist who everything that happened with Tom to your son, David Miscavige. Every fight he had with Nicole, every mood he had, every temper tantrum he had, everything and anything going on in Tom's life was reported to David Miscavige. And David Miscavige wanted Tom to reach back into Scientology. He didn't want to be the first person inviting Tom back.
Right.
So a complete plan was made on how to drop the hint for Tom to reach back into Scientology. This was all very, very carefully programmed. I mean, Tom Cruise does have star power. How
Yeah.
many people on planet Earth can make $1 billion for a studio in a couple of movies?
There's no two ways about it.
He was
The
a
guy is,
hero.
he's.
However, Marty Rathburn reported that when Tom Cruise was getting audited at Celebrity Center, there was a very hidden microphone and camera, completely hidden. Tom Cruise had no knowledge of it. And every word he said in session was recorded, filmed with full audio.
Now, let me make a point on that for our audience.
Mhm.
Today's security checks or auditing takes place in auditing rooms, and there is a camera pointed at the e-meter, pointed at the person, but it's out in the open. It isn't hidden. So the pre-clear or the person going in to receive the auditing or counseling knows that this is going on. In the case with Tom, these were hidden, so he didn't know that that was going on.
Tom didn't know what was
That's a difference there.
happening. And Rathburn reported he was number 2 inner circle, that in the evenings when David Miscavige had his little group around him, he would drink scotch and he would actually reveal little tidbits of Tom's sexuality and what Tom thought he had given up in the sanctity of a session. Wow. It was
Now,
laughed at, it was joked about, it was mocked. Mhm.
I wonder if Tom has any way that he would know about this. Or do you think that there's a filter put on him by people around him to keep him away from stuff like that?
Yeah. It's just incomprehensible. But let's go wider on that. People don't realize that when they get counseling in the cult of Scientology, everybody is on camera, like you said.
Yeah.
All the time. Every word you say is recorded. There is no priest penitent privilege, as if, they've screamed in the law courts, oh, we can't give you that, that's priest penitent privilege. In the Laura Diekman lawsuit, this was, oh, we can't turn over the folders because it's all priest penitent. Rubbish. Recorded and watched by the many. So if anybody is giving up a withhold, a secret, something they kept back and didn't share, remember that in the cult of Scientology, you're on camera for everything you ever told them. Not to mention that the counselor is extensively writing down what you say. Jeez, is that a turnoff?
Let me tell you, it goes even further than that, because this information is then shared with the registrars, the people who sell you services.
Yeah.
So they know of your deeper withholds that you've given up, or things that maybe you wouldn't want to be known. The registrars know this. So when they're trying to get you to contribute more money for more auditing, they have like an inside idea as to what is going to get you moving toward giving them money. It's really
they
bad.
are so brazen that let me give you a short little anecdote. There was a guy, and his secret withhold was he had a little savings account of $15,000 that the regis didn't know about. This was, they ask you, well, what have you got? What is your bank balance? What is your save? And he had this little hidden $15,000 savings account, and he gave it up in session on camera, revealing he had the 15,000. When he came out of session, he was walked to the registrar, and the registrar said, hey, that 15,000 you have, the registrar didn't even hide the fact that within minutes of him confessing to his secret account the registrar knew about it. This guy, I mean, he's out of Scientology now. He's been talking, he's gone. But this was the final straw. He just gave that up in session, and
Yeah.
in 3 minutes, the salespeople knew he had a hidden 15,000. He realized this was an eye-opener to him, and it was a make-break point of him walking out the door.
Well, I'll tell you, in that case, it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it for them to come after him for the 15 G's. And if he says, wait a minute, this is BS, I'm the hell out of here. See you later. Whatever's going to give you that final epiphany, or the thing that's saying, hey, wait a minute, I've been conned. This is no good. And I'll tell you, we all have been conned. I'll plead guilty of that. I was a Kool-Aid drinker for many years. I used to do videos telling people why they should buy the lectures, and they were damn good videos too. I made up a course to show new people how to sell these videos, and it was used widely. So here I am. I don't know if you'd say making up the damage, but I do get people on to expose them so I can do my best to try to keep anybody from going in who's considering going into Scientology. Or if somebody's sneaking a look at this, I hope they say, you know what, I'm out. And this is the reason I do it, Karen.
Well, yeah. Good on you, Ron. I want to tell you that it's church policy that unusual favors are a big no-no. It's considered a crime. You not only can be commented, you can be. There was a guy called Peter Cook. You may know him from Gold or whatever. Peter Cook got some presents from a former mission holder called Martin Samuels. I wonder what happened to Martin Samuels. He was prominent.
I wondered what happened to him. He was on the West Coast, wasn't he?
Yes, Bay Area. And he got some big wins with an auditor called Peter Cook, who he then gave a stereo system to. And it was found out that Peter Cook took the stereo system from Martin Samuels. And Mount Vesuvius exploded. Peter Cook was sent to the RPF's RPF for accepting a stereo system from his counselor. Now, and Peter Cook was crushed. I think he's long gone. He fled from.
Oh, no, he's out. He lives up in Vermont with his wife.
Yeah.
I know Peter well.
Oh, you know Peter?
Absolutely, yeah. And he was a good auditor.
Yeah. Was he crushed on this? Oh. It was considered criminal. However, David Miscavige would get personal investments done by the Freshbeck brothers to make his money make more money. Did you know that? The Freshbecks did investments from Miscavige?
Yep, I heard that. And I also heard that they were not allowed for him to lose money on any investment.
Right.
Now, I just heard that. I don't know if that's true. I have a tendency to believe if the Freshbacks were doing it, they were not going to tell COB, oh, by the way, you just lost $5,000. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. But this is the hypocrisy. What's good for the goose is not good for the gander. It's like if you're a Sea Org member and you take an unusual favor, you can be crucified, slaughtered. But David Miscavige will shower unusual favors onto Tom Cruise. Look at Tom Cruise. He has a permanent suite at St. Hill.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that luxury suite at St. Hill Manor?
Well, I know that there is a luxury suite that was built that David uses when he goes there. And I'm sure if Tom's in town, that's the same one he's using. And you have a staff of people waiting on you. I'm sure, if you want breakfast in bed or whatever you want, you just mention it and you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And the manor has been redone, and it is beautiful inside, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
It is very luxurious looking.
Yeah.
I don't, for some reason, I don't say that that's wrong, except the fact is that's being provided with tax-free money.
Yeah.
That's what's wrong with it. It isn't bad to treat your friend to something. But when you're doing it with people who are working for a pittance, their labor, they're working for pennies an hour. It's been redecorated with tax-free money, and you get it. That's what's wrong with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It. Yeah.
Well, look at John Brousseau. He had the ability to drive on and off the base at any time.
Yeah.
Where if you try to go to Walmart down the road by about 2 miles, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
If you walked up to the gate, pressed the button, they'd let him go. Do you know why? He was doing
He
things for
was
Tom Cruise.
pimping Tom Cruise's personal real estate, both at Telluride, that ski resort area, Telluride, and in Oregon. And it was known at the base that John Brousseau was doing his contractor work to pimp up Tom Cruise's. Did you see the pictures of the hangar that John Brousseau posted, that John Brousseau had?
I think I saw them one time in the Cine Castle, but I couldn't make out what it was. It looked like it was a stainless steel hanger. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah.
This was just a skeleton, so maybe.
Well, no, I'll
no.
send them to you. I wish I had printed them off. Maybe on another show I can show them. But anyway, Tom Cruise literally, other than the backstabbing and laughing at his sexual withdrawals, which Miscavige reportedly did nightly, drinking scotch and revealing Tom's secrets. That was a but other than that, Tom is truly, people consider it an honor to be a slave to him.
I know.
Mentality is, I'm serving God. I'm serving an almighty. They don't consider it slave labor. And they don't consider that they're kissing ass and bowing like a toad. They consider this the greatest honor that they can serve a movie star.
Yeah.
So, Ron, no matter how many revelations, no matter how many aftermath shows, no matter how many podcasts and hundreds of thousands of forums and sites giving the darker side of Scientology, Tom Cruise is simply see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. He won't. And movie after movie.
Yeah.
Going clear, my Scientology. There's documentary after documentary. Tom Cruise will have none of it. Right?
No.
He is going to encourage people to come into a cult where they will be destroyed if they query and become dissident and criticize any part of it. Some people have been destroyed just by giving likes to Mike Rinder's blog. They gave a like, or they have a friendship on Facebook, and their family was disconnected from them as orchestrated by the cult. What do you make of that? Can you think of any cult, religion, church that would take away your family and have them shun you? Jehovah's Witnesses call it disfellowshipping. Scientology calls it disconnection. You give someone a like or you friend someone and you lose family? Give me some comment on that.
What's there to comment? My 2 daughters, their children, their children's children. I've never met any of those great-grandchildren. As a matter of fact, I don't even know how many I have. I still have my son, Ronnie. I have my granddaughter, Jenna, and her husband, and their 2 little children. But the rest of my family's taken away. It's a horrible experience, I got to tell you. It's terrible. And it's accepted as scripture, like because L. Ron Hubbard wrote it. What he writes, the church called scripture. Yeah. This is terrible at best. You lose your family. And you're right. How could you not know that this is going on if you're Tom Cruise? Is it possible? I don't think so. I do not think so. I think he knows it, and it's justified in his mind as to why it's okay to still do this. It might be like, well, if they hadn't said that, they wouldn't be disconnected, and that's the reason. And it's the greatest good for the greatest number. That type of justification. And there's no way to just.
He's already been educated. It's just SPs. That's all. They're just SPs quacking. They just suppress a person. They're antisocial, and they're just attacking us. And his paradigm, his experience, has been treated with benevolence, generosity, just unicorns and ice cream. Snap your fingers. People are not allowed to. People have to call him Mr. Cruz, right?
I know. Yeah. Sea Org members have to call him Mr. Cruz. In other words, these people, like me, like you, if we met him, we'd have to say Mr. Cruz. We couldn't say Tom. Anyway, it's just a bad situation.
Mention, since it's very strict policy not to have unusual favors, Tom Cruise's $400,000 birthday party on Free Wings. Were you playing in the band for Tom's birthday party?
I was leading the band for that.
Oh.
I'm on the stage, and if you were to see a video of it, there I am. I'm playing, and I played the whole show, and it was like something you never saw before. He came on the stage and danced, and he sang that old rock and roll, and just got joined in and everything. But that was. I had to call our drummer, who we sent back to L.A., Tommy Breckline, and I caught him at the airport on his cell phone. I says, Tommy, there's a flight. You got to come back. He says, Ronnie, you got to be kidding me. I says, no, you got to come back right now. He's such a good friend. He just said, okay, I'll explain when you get back. But that thing, money spent on that, there was no objection. You opened up a spigot and money ran out. No big deal.
I know that Tom liked a certain kind of sushi, Japanese sushi. And the whole restaurant in Santa Monica was
sent there. Yeah.
So 400, you see, they can spend 400,000 on a movie star. It's tax-free money. It's IRS tax-free money.
Yeah, and by the way, that figure, 400,000, Mark Headley knows about that because he was an executive at Gold. So he had his finger right on that money. So that's how come you can say that with goddamn certainty.
Yeah, it was in the book, Blown for Good. So the two huge favors that completely stand out, God knows how many personal favors here and there, but pimping to find a sexual partner for Tom as Vanity Fair.
You're a top-notch movie star and you need somebody else to find a girlfriend for you. Is there something wrong with that picture or what?
But what other cult, religion, or church uses a movie star to shill for them?
Yeah.
I know Madonna dabbled in something called Kabbalah, but I can't remember. Kabbalah is some...
It's a Jewish thing. It's a part of the Jewish religion.
And she dabbled in it a little bit. It was, Madonna's. And then there was this Richard, who was Buddhist, and he...
Richard Gere?
Richard Gere, yes.
Yeah.
And he endorsed the Dalai Lama. But these are a minuscule endorsement compared to the way Tom Cruise, the word is synonymous with Scientology.
Yeah, it is.
And David Miscavige made it that way.
Yep.
Absolutely made it that way. And there's many a person in the Latin American countries that go, well, Tom Cruise is a member. Gotta have some validity, right?
Yeah.
So poor Tom, how he's been used and how his image is damaged.
Boy, it sure is.
Damaged.
Wow.
damaged image.
I think you've made your point.
I don't know how long we've been on, Ron, but I think that what triggered this was the unbelievable blimps in media that Tom went to London for 3 days and couldn't stay away from Sainteville.
He'd go there every night to sleep.
Maybe he likes the adulation of Sea Org members, the salute, the Mr. Cruz, remember I'm going to end with this very famous, world famous statement that Tom Cruise allegedly made, which can easily be found on the internet. This is the famous sentence. First, there is L. Ron Hubbard. Second, there is Chairman of the Board, David Miscavige. And then there is me. That's the sentence that lead people to write. People write all that. Will Tom Cruise take over Scientology when at some point? That's because he's positioning himself after Hubbard and Miscavige. There is Cruise.
Wow.
You haven't heard that sentence before?
You know, I've heard of it. I haven't heard that exact explanation though.
The exact sentence I gave you. And then there's me. Just go to Google, anyone listening, go to Google, put in Tom Cruise, and then there is me.
I believe it. I'll tell you what I heard when he was telling this to somebody. It could have been that girl that he was dating for a while.
Penelope Cruz?
No, not Penelope Cruz. Who was the one they arranged on the dating thing?
Oh, Naz.
Yeah, I couldn't think of her name. Yeah.
Nazi.
Now, I heard this, and I don't even know who told it to me, but I heard it, and I'm not making this up, that he said to her, there's L. Ron Hubbard, there's David Miscavige, and then there's me. That's the one I heard.
Yes. I think it came from Naz. I think that's what he told her.
Okay.
And she shared. Mm-hmm. But it gives you the mindset of Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It gives you the mindset. He has swallowed all this so much that he looks in his body and finds an attached Thetan, a body Thetan, a spirit, and he exorcises this spirit attached to his body and does the Scientology procedure of exorcism. This is how much Tom Cruise is deeply into the Scientology cult mindset. That bears pondering about.
Oh boy, doesn't it ever. Doesn't it ever. Karen, what's the lesson we could say about this?
Yeah, I think the lesson is, now I want your feedback and I want you to go back and forth.
But if it's a good lesson, that's it. I'm not saying anything. So
okay.
Go ahead.
The human mind has the ability to swallow the most unbelievable, outrageous fact, even when the evidence against it is right under their nose. To hell with science. Religion, politics, anything can supersede any factual data, because the human mind will swallow it in spite of contrary facts. Isn't that the lesson we get from Tom?
I'll tell you.
No matter what the internet says, no matter what stories, heartbreaking stories, no matter what, he will believe, because Miscavige has educated and made him swallow it all.
And I'll just add one little thing, but I'm not going to change what you just said, because that is the absolute truth. And after he said a lot, and he will justify why he still believes in false things, or will justify why what they're presenting to him is not going to change his mind. It's justified.
Hmm.
Does that make any sense to you? In other words, they have this belief you're presenting irrefutable facts that are to the contrary, and it doesn't change his mind, because what he has in his mind is justified as being this it. It can't be any different.
I wonder what the justifications are precisely and exactly. I wonder the justification is they've been so kind to me. I don't
Well,
believe
now,
they have a dark side.
there you go. Now you're talking. All right. Like, how could this be wrong when I've been treated so nice?
Yeah, yeah.
So there we go. I don't think it was bad me chipping in that after all. I was going to shut my mouth, but I know that people will justify anything. All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Karen, it's been my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you back, and we got to keep doing these. And
Anytime, Ron, anytime. I'll be cooking up some subjects, and we'll be together. This is a nice.
It'd be fabulous.
To
Anyway,
have a fellow person who went through it over 40 years, like I did.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
lived it,
Yeah.
breathed it, and we've survived and flourished and prospered.
Yep. And we've walked the walk, and we're not talking about something we read about in a book. We actually experienced this. So you're getting the, what do they call it? Fair dinkum? Is that what they say in England? The skinny, right?
Yeah.
That's an expression. Anyway, listen, this has been Life After Scientology. If you want to see what else I do, go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'd like to get this up to a lot more subscribers who get enlightened with our shows. And if you'd like to help the ongoingness of it, you can become a Patreon or just send in a donation. That would be very much appreciated. And I'm going to keep on doing this. And Karen, I'm going to keep on having you back, and we'll have some more interesting talks and interesting shows, I'm sure.
Love
So from me to all of you, I say, have a wonderful day. Have a healthy life. God bless all of you. Karen, you want to say your goodbye also?
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Y'all come back now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.